hopes and dreams. Sadie, the woman who had become a second mother to Rose, had uttered dire warnings, and these came flooding back to her now. Perhaps she ought to have listened, but she had ignored them and had allowed Max to purchase a berth for her on the Bendigo Queen. Sadie had been quick to notice the deepening affection between Rose and Max. He was 5 years Rose's senior, and she had been slightly in awe of him when they first arrived in the mining town of Bendigo, and it was Jimmy, his younger brother, who had been her particular friend. 2 years later, Max had been sent back to England to attend Sandhurst Military Academy, and it was on his first trip home that they'd met again. Rose closed her eyes, conjuring up a vision of Max. His gleaming blonde hair waved back from a high forehead, his classic features, piercing blue eyes, and his newly acquired military bearing. It had been love at first sight when she'd met him then, even though they'd known each other since childhood, and to her surprise, the feeling was mutual. What a handsome young man from a wealthy family had seen in a skinny green-eyed girl with wildly curling copper hair she'd never been able to fathom. But Max loved her, and she loved him. Unfortunately, his mother and Raven Dorincourt, his aristocratic stepfather, disapproved, and Max was promptly packed off to England to finish his training. But his parents could not prevent them from corresponding. Rose had a bundle of Max's letters tied with pink ribbon, stowed carefully in her luggage. Reading them at night before she went to sleep had kept her going through the long days of their separation, and during the voyage home to England. "Rose, dear, we're leaving now. Are you coming with us?" Adele's voice brought Rose sharply to her senses, and she was left facing a wall of thick pea-green fog and an uncertain future. There was nothing she could do other than to follow Mr. and Mrs. Parker down the companionway to the lower deck. Everyone was pushing and jostling for position as the passengers disembarked. The level of sound from the dock grew in intensity as people called out to each other, whistling and shouting to attract the attention of those who had come to meet and greet them. Festus Parker disappeared into the crowd, telling his wife to stay where she was while he went to retrieve their baggage. Rose could only stand there, damp, cold, and increasingly panic-stricken, as she searched the crowd for the young cavalry officer who had stolen her heart in such a dramatic way. Adele tugged at her sleeve. "Maybe he was delayed by the fog. Come with us, dear. We're going to stay in Elder Street until we get our next posting." "Thank you, but I'll wait. Max will be here. He promised." Rosie's voice caught on a barely suppressed sob, but she held back the tears of desperation that threatened to overwhelm her as she struggled against a wave of homesickness. Sadie would tell her to keep a stiff upper lip, whatever that meant, but Rose was beginning to wish she'd never left the noisy, often chaotic house attached to the school in Bendigo. Adele fumbled in her reticule and brought out a pencil and a religious tract. She tore it in half, pulling a face as she did so. "I'm sure the good Lord will forgive me, but this is the only piece of paper I have." She wrote something and passed it to Rose. "This is where we'll be for the foreseeable future. If you get into difficulties, you know where to find us." Rose put it in her pocket. "Thank you, Mrs. Parker. I won't forget your kindness to me during our voyage." "Nonsense, Rose. You've been a delight, and you helped to alleviate the boredom of the long days at sea." Adele moved aside as her husband emerged from the gloom, carrying a large valise and Rosie's carpet bag. "You travelled light, Rosie," Festus said cheerfully. "I wish my wife could limit herself to so little in the way of clothing." Adele beamed at him. "It's my one weakness. I know it's pure vanity, and I should try to overcome my love of pretty gowns and lovely colours, but we are as the good Lord made us." "I'm sure you make up for it in kindness, Mrs. Parker." Rose leaned over to kiss Adele's round cheek. "You can still change your mind and come with us, Rose." "Thank you for your offer, but I will wait here for Max. He'll come. I know he will." Adele and her husband exchanged worried glances. "Have you anywhere to stay in London?" Festus asked abruptly. "Has your young man found suitable accommodation for you?" "Oh, yes," Rose said airily. "We'll be lodging at the